Hello everyone, I Yashvi Sharma from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration in the BHOPAL School of Social Sciences. Today, before starting our topic, let us understand that what do we mean by the subject of public administration. The word public administration has been derived by the two major terms. One that is being used is public and another one is administration. Before understanding the meaning of both public and administration, let us understand what do this word public represent here. Here, the word public represents the government. That means you are going to understand about how the government is being administered in a system. Here in the next slide, you can see I have displayed a book introducing public administration by Shafritz and Ruzel. Now you all might be wondering that why this book has been written over here. I'll start by a story. Time 8:48 am, 11th of September. You all might know this date. Something bell might have been introduced into your head. Here, the Shafritz and Ruzel have talked about how that terrifying day of terrorist attack have actually built a tremor among the administrators at that time. He have talked about and he have interviewed a person who was named as Adam Claren. Adam Claren says that at that time he was looking upon to here and there that who can be a person who can look after him or who can basically took out the people from that building. And looking upon to all that triggers, he came upon to the realization that there were 3 to 4 people who were actually either the firefighters, who were either actually the government officials, who have put their life into the danger to take out the people from that terrorist attacked building. And in the next day, when the newspaper came, there was nowhere written that those people who were acting as a firefighters, who were acting as a god for the people, they were actually the public officials. So by this story, I want you all to understand that why Shafritz Ruzel have put down this story in that book. Actually, this story determines that how the administrators have the various job to tackle out in their own field. When you become an engineer, you only look upon how your field works on. When you become a doctor, you only look upon how the patients can be treated. But when you become an Indian Administrative Service officer, you have to look after each and everything that is being connected to the civilians of that state or district. So, by starting this, let us start our new session. Now we are going to understand about what do we mean by public administration, what is the nature of public administration, and at last what is the scope of public administration. Coming upon to the word administration, the word administration means ad plus ministrate. Now this is a Latin word ad plus ministrate, which means to manage or to serve. Actions of the government by which the goals of government is realized. Now, after understanding the word public, we should understand about what do we mean by administration. But before that, we should understand that do administration, do management, do organization, are these 3 words used interchangeably or they can be used interchangeably? A big question mark is up to it. Now, by the next slide, you will understand that no, these words can't be used interchangeably. Now, when I'm talking about the word administration, now what do we mean by administration? Let's take about an organization, or let's talk about our itself institute. If I talk about any organization, the major important role over here is played by the administrative head. Now, why do we call administration as the backbone of any organization? Let us understand it in a most appropriate manner. Any organization basically refers to where there are various amount of departments, where there is various supervisor and there are ample amount of subordinates who are going to coordinate with each other. if you open any cafe, you directly don't call it as an organization or as an institute. You call it as a cafe. Why? Because there are only few jobs that are needed to be tackled out in a cafe. But when I talk about an organization or I talk about any institute, it includes each and every department, each and every individual into it. Now here, when I talk about administration, in this image you can see that these all people are actually working upon to the day-to-day activities which are being ordered by the management. Now why I talked it as a management? Why this image is only referred to as administration? The next image will be answer to it. Actually, the management includes the lesser amount of people, or I can say the decision making body in any organization is called as management, who actually look upon to how that organization needs to work. Actually, they comply the goals, organization goals, into a very lenient manner, or I would say into a one direction. Here in this image you can see that 4 people are sitting together. They are actually the management, who is actually the decision making body of an organization. In the next image you can see that there are one supervisor, or I could say as chief executive, and the another one here. These are various departments. Now these various departments I would say coordinate with each other to work with the in charge of the supervisor or with the help of chief executive. So on the other note, if I would say about what is administration, administration is the one who set the goals for an organization, who actually look upon to the day-to-day routine activities. What is management? Management is the body who is actually the decision-making body. Administration works according to what the decision is being made by the management. And third is the organization. Without any organization, without any the place where those administration and management would work, everything is empty. Therefore, these 3 important words can't be used interchangeably. Alright. Now we'll understand it. What do we mean by public administration as the whole word? Public means government. Administration means day-to-day routine activities. Yes. So means here we are going to understand about how the government works day-to-day in a day-to-day activity. It refers to the large number of people and citizens. Of course, it is a cooperative effort towards achieving a common goal. Now, if any organization have made with the basic goal of giving a transparent education to everyone, that is called as college. If any organization has built to look after upon to the developmental activities or welfare activities of the people, then those organizations are called as NGO, known as formal and informal. That we are going to cover in our next slide. But for now, understand that public administration means the administration done by the government, where the ample amount of people are being controlled. It is the sum of all the activities that are performed by an organization. Now, if I talk about why there was a need to introduce this public administration, what is the major need that the philosophers came upon to this conclusion that yes, we require a subject that is known as public administration. Here, I would say that the whole contribution goes to Woodrow Wilson by his one article written in 1887. By his one article, this public administration have got a different distinction to this subject. Why? Because the question was arised at that time that does there is any a necessity to divide the political science and public administration? Yes, he have said it in the first phase of evolution. He said that politics and administration dichotomy. Even like for an example, you look upon to this country. When you look upon to this country, who is the political head, you can determine it. Your prime minister, your president, your chief minister, those who are elected. But actually the one who administer them or who basically look upon to the decisions or policies that are being announced by those political head, who is behind those curtains, that is the administration. You call it as Indian Administrative Service, you call it as an Indian Police Service, the one who is behind the curtain. Now let us start with the definition of public administration. One of the most prominent definition that is being given by L.D. White. He says that public administration consists of all the operations having for their purpose the enforcement of the policy. This means that here L.D. White wants to connote by this definition that the purpose of any administration or any organization administration is to enforce the policy. It is very easy to show the policy on a paper, but how that policy is being implemented to the grassroots level, that becomes a very big question mark. The next important philosopher is Woodrow Wilson, and who is also considered to be as father of public administration. He says that public administration is detailed and systematic application of law. It is called as an act of administration. That means any law is being made in the legislation, any law is made in the parliament. But now, after that law has been passed, how that law has been implemented into the different levels of country, that is also a big question mark. The Woodrow Wilson have very clearly stated that it is the systematic application of law. That means how that public policy is going to reach out to the deepest section of the society. Now, why a common goal is needed to achieve this public administration as a subject? Because setting goals give the purpose and they help us to guide our lives. Let's take instance, you go to your college. Some go to college for education, some go to college for having a gala time with their friends. There are various ample factors which are responsible for a child to go to a college or to the school. But there is one common goal for every child. They have to give their examination, they have to get the good education in the institute. So now the goal is common. When the goal is common, every organization is very efficient and productive towards it. Two different orders or two different goals in an organization would make the work more lethargy and hardworking. So we want to do a hard work but towards the one common goal, not 2 or 3 different goals. Now, nature of public administration. Now, why it is being mentioned here integral and managerial? Actually, while defining the public administration, the most important question over here was, earlier it was being said that public administration only look after about the managerial activities. Now, why do we call it as managerial? It includes only the post corp, or I would say it only includes the body who have the power of decision making or who actually are the part in the decision making. So, managerial activities only consider that the one in an organization who does the decision making, who have the power and authority into their hands, or who are actually denoting their helping hands in the front 4 purpose of the organization, only they are called as managerial. But later on, a new idea came upon that is known as an integral view. Now, when I am talking about integral view, what is the major important reason that you need to focus over here? Let's talk about this organization itself. In any of the organization, one of the major important, I would say, pillar of an organization is the supporting staff. But according to managerial view, only those who are having the power and authority in their hands, they are managerial. So, integral view says that we are going to include both managerial activities, both supporting staff activities, and then it is called as integral. That means that in an organization, the whole organization building, which is non-living as a component, or I can say the whole prominent organization workers, starting from the supporting staff to the principal of an organization or the chief executive of an organization, is the part of public administration, not only the one who have the authority in their hands. Next, we'll come to the scope of public administration. Now, when I talk about scope as a public administration, it is divided in the 2 major aspects. First is public administration as a state activity, and another one is public administration as a discipline. Now, when I talk about public administration as a state activity, it was being suggested. Now, see, when public administration came as a subject, one of the most important time period was when they wanted to prove that yes, this subject have its own identity, and just to prove the identity of this subjects, various amount of scientific principles, management principles were being applied in a very simple subject, that is public administration. It is about how to administer the government or how to look after the people. But the system becomes more complicated when they included the mathematical principles into it, scientific principles into it, just to make the subject more factful in nature. But we all know that it makes the subject more tricky rather than, I would say, boring. Just to understand it in a very simple, concise, we can say that when a subject is being understood in a very simpler manner, or I would say the theoretical aspects are written or are explained in the manner they should be, it becomes more easier for students also to understand. Fine. So, as a state activity here they says that public administration earlier was just as an aspect of a state activity. That means how the state needs to work after the people, how they can extend the social and welfare security and protecting the rights of citizens. Negro and Negro says that all the three organs of the government, that means your legislative, your executive, your judiciary, all the three parts are major important component of public administration. You cannot exclude any one of it. But in this aspect, you can see that it is only including the aspect how the subject can contribute to the state, how the subject can contribute to the administration of the state. But this subject is not only related only how the government should work, but it also include how public administration as a discipline can be achieved. So, here you can listen about the post-COP view and the subject matter view. Now, coming upon to the post-COP view, what is the major important aspect over here? This post-COP as a theory was being given by Luther Gulick and Irving. They have written a paper, but this theory of post-COP has been given by Luther Gulick, but the paper was being written by both Luther Gulick and Irving. Now, here you can see that post-COP is defined as planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordination, reporting and budgeting. Now, these are the 7 principles. Now, here what they have explained over here is that planning of an organization. That means if any organization doesn't have a plan of how they need it to be worked, that becomes a very big question mark. So, first in any organization the planning is being made. That means how an organization can plan or work toward one single goal. Second is itself the organization. That means let us for take instance you are as an individual. You as an individual want to open a cafe. So, for opening a cafe, what was the first thing that you are going to understand? You are going to plan the whole chart, that here I am going to use the market forces. That means here is the huge amount of education field children. Let's say you are going to open a cafe for the purpose of the youth. So, you are going to take or opt for the place where there are ample amount of hostels. So, you are going to look upon to the market factors. You are going to look upon to the ambience of that cafe. So, planning is the first most important thing. Now, after planning, second most important thing comes is your organization. That means what all factors, or I would say how an organization, that means how many departments, there would be a finance department, there would be an audit department, there would be a department of, there would be a medical branch. So, everything is being determined. That means how you are going to organize your plan. Next comes your staffing, which is the most important one, or I could say as a human resource. Human resource is the another major aspect which act as the major ingredient of this factor known as staffing. Why? Because if there are no human resource, then what's the use of organization? What's the use of planning? So, the human resource is the third major goal of any organization. Fourth, you talk about directing. Directing means any of the candidate who are being staffed or who are being recruited, they do not know the actual environment or what kind of goals you have set for your organization. So, you have to make aware to those trainees or those staffers whom you have staffed, that they should know about how your organization is working. What are the important goals of your organization? And when this factor will be cleared, they will come to a point of realization that how they can contribute towards that organization. That means directing, the one who is the supervisor or who is the chief executive, they need to direct the staff accordingly. Next come your coordination. Now, when I talk about the word coordination, what does it mean? Coordination means how you are going to coordinate with the different departments. Let's for take instance of this college only. When I talk about this college, there are various departments into it. When any activity is being organized in our organization, you can notice that various different levels of coordination by different team. There are different coordinating team. Let's for take instance Department of Humanities with Department of Computer Science, Department of Commerce is working with Department of Psychology. So this is basically the coordination. So another most important goal for setting up of an organization is there should be a proper coordination between the various departments so that the information could be transferred in a very hierarchical manner, not in a haphazard manner. Next is your reporting. Now, when I talk about the term reporting, reporting means that, let's understand it in that aspect, when any information is being received by a superior to its subordinate, what it is called? It is called as command. But if any information is being transferred from the subordinate level to the superior level, it means the reporting. So reporting here means that when in any organization, how you're going to reporting the day-to-day work to the superior body. And last is your budgeting, which is the most important aspect of any organization. That means how that organization is going to gather the amount, or how they are going to look upon to their expenses of the organization. Last is your subject matter view, post-cog view and subject matter view. Now, subject matter view, there is one famous line. It has been said that just as a post-cog, will it be able to explain the whole discipline of public administration? That is a big question mark. So here, Leonard's Merriam says that public administration is an instrument with two blades of one scissor, where the one scissor is the knowledge of field covered by the post-cog, and another one is the knowledge of subject matter. That means that before application of this post-cog as a theory, one should understand upon how the various subjects are going to be influenced by it. What should be the theoretical knowledge, or I would say what would be the practical theoretical implication of this particular acronym. So, thank you everyone, and hope we'll see you soon.